Patreon Q&A number 117. I want to thank all 117 of my amazing patrons. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to support me the way that you have been. And to everyone else listening, there's going to be spoilers for all of the series that I'm going to be talking about, so tread carefully. Milkbag 2 asks, if Saitama wasn't there to stop Garou and he actually got world domination like he wanted, how do you think it would have played out? This is a good question, and let's go to the end of the arc, but you know, in this scenario, Saitama doesn't show up, and Garou just defeats the S-Class along with the Monster Association. So what does he do at this point? Maybe he like goes somewhere where he can make a public statement, maybe on like a TV network or something like that, or maybe he goes to the Hero Association. It's possible the Hero Association might establish Garou as a disaster level god threat. Since Garou has been telling himself, and he will eventually say out loud, that he is Shibawa's prophecy, he is disaster level god, I assume he'll say this to the Hero Association or also on that broadcast that he would, you know, in theory make. So he might force disaster level god protocol, whatever that is. And I assume it's everybody has to work together to take on this thing. You know, forget about protecting your individual cities or whatever. Everyone is needed for this, since that is like the highest threat level. It's a threat to humanity. So essentially we're gonna have everyone available in the Hero Association coming after Garou. And then we also have to remember Drive Knight. He wasn't there, or I mean, he's kind of there in the manga now, but I don't think he'll stick around until that point. So he's gonna be there. Whether it's on behalf of the Hero Association or behalf of himself and the organization, because Drive Knight and, you know, by proxy the organization wants world control. They want what Garou is essentially having here. So they're not going to just let Garou do that. They're gonna be like, hey, no. We're gonna have to take you out because you're kind of like stealing our thunder here. So at that point, Garou can still defeat Drive Knight and the organization and the rest of the S-Class heroes and the entire Hero Association, which is in theory possible, I suppose. I mean, we don't know how strong Drive Knight is. I'm not gonna say he's as strong as Awakened Garou because that's a little too generous at this point in time. Let's just say he is able to defeat them all. You know, maybe. And then you know what's gonna happen at this point. Blast is gonna have to show up because it's implied that he would. You know, if a disaster level god threat showed up, or just a threat to humanity, or if humanity is truly endangered, you know, whatever Sitch said, this is the moment. So Blast is gonna show up, and he's gonna be like the final savior since Saitama is not coming here for some reason in this scenario. And then we're gonna get Blast versus Garou, or Awakened Garou. And it's like, what happens at this point? Your guess is as good as mine, because, you know, we don't know the true strength of Blast, but I would say the implications on his power put him minimum around Awakened Garou's level, considering, you know, Fubuki said that he can take the entire S-Class by himself, and that's kind of what Awakened Garou did. Although not the entire S-Class, and Tatsumaki was weakened, it's somewhat relative at this point, given all of the information that we have. So Blast would have to defeat Awakened Garou, and in my opinion, if I was putting money on this fight, I'd put it on Blast. And I do honestly think that he probably will turn out to be stronger than what we saw of Awakened Garou, at least in the webcomic. It's going to be much harder to distinguish the manga because it's going to take a lot longer to get to that point. But as of right now, I think that Blast, if, you know, he was forced to show up and stop Awakened Garou from doing what he ultimately wants, I think Blast would probably defeat him. Little Ferrari asks, what if Garou had One for All? So if he did have it, it would definitely amplify his strength, because that's what it does. And I think Garou, without becoming awakened, hasn't really shown the level of power that One for All could give him. I'm not saying that, you know, pre-woke Garou or whatever is weaker than All Might or 100% Izuku. It's hard to say at this point, and I haven't really analyzed them like that yet. But given like the output of power from the smashes, like how they look and the perceived damage of them, it is somewhat relative to like the strikes that Awakened Garou has in the webcomic. So if he did have One for All, it would push him maybe to that level of power. And we're not even saying that he is awakened at this point. We're just saying he's like regular Garou. Maybe it would give him strength similar to that of what he was in Awakened Garou, maybe the speed as well. But even if it's, I don't know, negligible or something like that, he would still have the overall hacks of One for All. It's not just about the power stockpiler and what that gives you. It's also about the vestiges. I think that's really what makes One for All so broken. And it's that like you have like these force spirit, these force ghost spirits living within you that can tangibly affect reality if they need to. So like if you're in some kind of genjutsu or something like that, or if you're stuck in some kind of situation, they can seemingly help you out of it. Or if you need to go above 100% or just above your limit of current power, they can push you above that with like the boost that they give you. We've seen them do it to Izuku, we've seen them do it to All Might. So Garou, who definitely digs deep, you know, one of the strongest resolves of all manga characters probably, he would definitely tap into this power and then, I don't know, start doing some truly crazy stuff at that point. And also he comes close to death a lot. They could also help him out in those situations as well. So this would only benefit Garou in my opinion. Beowolf asks, Shinazugawa and Himejima with the mark versus Metal Bat and Tank Top Master. Now, I don't think this is going to be like in a squash match, if you will, but I do think Metal Bat and Tank Top Master are at like a higher level of power than Shinazugawa and Himejima, like actually much stronger, because we saw that like Himejima, him pushing that huge boulder was considered a very impressive feat of strength within the Demon Slayer world. And I know that's not the peak of his power, it's just kind of an example. But even that, if we compare that to just some casual feats that Metal Bat and especially Tank Top Master have had, you'll see that they're much stronger than them, at least from a physical standpoint. Now, as for speed and all of that stuff, I'm unaware how that really matches up. Shinazugawa is very fast, Himejima is very fast, at least with his weapons and stuff like that. And it's like, could they pierce the skin of Metal Bat? Could they pierce the skin of Tank Top Master? Maybe, maybe not. Hard to say for sure. I think that they could. Like landing those shots and making like significant damage is like another thing. So can the Demon Slayers win in this matchup? Sure, but I think it's more likely that Metal Bat and Tank Top Master would win. Then for your second question, how was Zenitsu able to defeat Haigaku so easily? So this one, I don't think you really need to read between the lines or anything like that. In my opinion, I think this was kind of sloppy. I think Zenitsu was rushed to this level of power, and this whole storyline was kind of rushed as well. I mean, we definitely did get the setup to Haigaku becoming a demon, or at least you could just assume that he probably was going to be one. But it's kind of just like they talk about it once and then fast forward like 80 chapters to the point of his reveal, and it's like, oh, there was real no setup to this. Zenitsu had just endless off-panel training and power-ups and stuff like that. It was kind of just like, oh, Zenitsu is now as powerful as he was normally in his sleep. And he also invented his own form of lightning breathing. So it just happened, and you just have to accept it. This kind of happens a lot in Demon Slayer. I'm not going to say it's Deus Ex. I'm just going to say it's kind of sloppy, rushed writing somewhat when these characters just magically become as strong as they need to be. Crazy Iguana asks, what are your favorite horror movies? So I really like the Evil Dead movies. The third one is whatever, it's fine, Army of Darkness. But like number 1 and number 2 are really good. I really enjoy those. Friday the 13th Part 6 is a fun movie. I really like that one. The Ring, both Japanese and English, are great. Event Horizon, that might be a little bit of a deep cut, but that's like a really fun, scary movie. And Tucker and Dale versus Evil, that's a great movie as well. Crusader Deus Vult asks, Earth Vader versus the Cadres. I'm probably just a white belt on Earth Vader at this point. I'm not even sure if I'm thinking about Earth Vader when he defeated like, I don't know, like this giant T-Rex thing. That was pretty impressive. That could be a demon or maybe even a dragon level threat in theory, maybe a demon. But Vader defeating all of the Cadres, I'm not sure if he could do it. And I'm sure Vader is extremely powerful and people are gonna tell me he's a disaster level god or whatever, and that's fine. But just from what I personally know, and from what I could gather, you know, without going, you know, hours and hours into Vader lore from the comics, I don't think he has the speed or maybe even the durability to hang with the Cadres. Could he chop their head off? For sure. I don't see why not. And maybe he could defeat some of them, but I don't think he could defeat all of them. Like Elder Centipede, Goketsu, Black S, Evil Natural Water. I just see him having a really hard time dealing with characters on that level of power, but I could be wrong. Second question is Zombie Man with all of his gear versus the Thing from the movie The Thing. Could he beat it? So the Thing in that movie, it was able to be defeated by like, I don't know, standard human means, but it's also like the way that it spreads and can move from like host to host is really what made it so formidable, I guess. So like if Zombie Man was like in an isolated situation against this thing, I think he could defeat it, but could he himself be infected by the thing? I guess in this situation, we're gonna have to say that he can't. Maybe it's because of, you know, his physicality, whatever experiments that allowed him to become Zombie Man. Maybe the thing can't merge with him or infect him or whatever. So if it was just him 1v1 against it, just not with even a human host or whatever, I guess he could defeat it. I don't see why not. Delamante asks, what are your favorite moments from Demon Slayer post the Hashira training arc? So many. Like after that point, we go into the final arc and everything starts popping off at that point. I really enjoy when Ubuyashiki blows up his like mansion place out of nowhere, trying to take down Muzan with him, and then he's like all messed up, and then you're seeing like, oh, what's gonna happen at this point? And then Tamayo shows up and then, you know, tries to put the human reversal demon stuff into him, and then all of the other Hashiras show up and all start attacking him. That sequence was awesome. I love that so much. I also liked when Tanjiro and Tomioka teamed up to take on Akaza. Thought that was great. I liked the flashback of Yoriichi encountering Muzan and pretty much destroying him and Muzan forced to run away. I thought that was an amazing sequence. I really liked that we got to see that flashback. Sometimes we don't really get that in battle manga. We kind of just talk about it, or we're led to like imagine what it was ourselves. And then Tanjiro becoming the Demon King randomly at the end, I thought that was very interesting. Dino W asks, in your opinion, what are the 10 strongest characters and 10 strongest Demon Slayers in Demon Slayer? So I am gonna make a video like dedicated to this subject. So right now, I'm not entirely sure. I still need to work on it, but I'll give you a top 5 of each. So as for the strongest Demon Slayers, number 1, easily Yoriichi. I know he's from the past, but he's still a Demon Slayer. Number 2 is, I guess, Himejima. Number 3, Shinazugawa. Those two seem like they're probably at the top of the Hashira, probably. Number 4, I think Rengoku. That might be like a controversial pick, but he almost soloed Akaza. And I think that definitely cements that he was probably one of the strongest. And then number 5, Igoro. Maybe because of recency bias, but he seems to be in that top echelon of the Hashira, at least from what we saw in the final battle. And then just for the strongest characters, period. Number 1, Yoriichi. He is the strongest character in the series. He's like, you know, the prime Garp, the prime All Might of Demon Slayer. I really like him, but you know, I'm a sucker for those type of characters. Number 2, Muzan, you know, easily. Number 3, Kokoshibo, you know, he's got to be in the top 3, I guess, right? Number 4, this is where it kind of gets difficult. I'll say Akaza, it would probably be the 4th strongest character in the series. Like I said, it's really hard to say. I'll have to do way more research on it, but off the top of my head, he seems like he should be in the top 5 at least. Number 5, Doma. Same thing with Akaza. I always felt like Akaza was probably stronger than Doma, and they do talk about like how Akaza is an older demon than Doma, but Doma was a better employee or something, so that's why he's one ranking higher than Akaza. But it does seem like Akaza is probably the stronger of the two. GardenShed asks, just wondered how you'd rate the protagonist of the Shonen Jump series you've read in terms of power, their disaster level. So just off the top of my head, I'm rough with quite a few of these. I'll eventually come back later and have, you know, more accurate answers to this. So Deku from My Hero, I would say that he's a solid dragon when he is not holding back, you know, when he's using like his full 100% full cowling and all of that stuff. He's definitely dragon level to some degree. Luffy from One Piece, when he's going all out as well, you know, like Bound Man, Snake Man, Gear 4, he's definitely dragon to some degree as well. Goku, above God, enough said. Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho, I don't really remember too well, but he's definitely dragon, minimum. It might even be above dragon when he's fighting Yomi. I'll have to come back to that one. Naruto, dragon for sure. Same thing with Yusuke. He might be above dragon, like at the end of the series. Ichigo, same thing with the rest of these two. Dragon for sure, maybe even above towards the end. And then Tanjiro, he's a demon. I think, you know, I think that's pretty fair for him. He didn't really do anything that made me think that he was a dragon yet. G-Money asks, who would win in a fight between Knuckle Duster and a quirkless Endeavor? So that's a good question. I do think Knuckle Duster is pretty impressive, at least from what I've seen. I'm not an expert on vigilantes. I haven't even read the full series yet, but I have seen some of Knuckle Duster when he goes against that instant villain, which is impressive, like I said, but Endeavor, even without his quirk, I think is on another level compared to that. I mean, just not even just the strength, but also the skill and effectiveness. It wouldn't be a complete squash match. I think Knuckle Duster could present somewhat of a challenge to Endeavor, but he would eventually lose. I think Endeavor's just on another level compared to him. Joe D asks, who do you think the traitor from UA is? I think it's probably Hagakure. Now, when is that going to be revealed? Your guess is as good as mine. I think it would be more impactful if it was a student, as opposed to it being Nezu or somebody from the, police force. Nezu would be shocking, and the police force would be like, whatever, if it's like Tsukuuchi or something, which it probably isn't. But I think it being Hagakure would be kind of perfect because, like, her invisibility quirk, it's like, we don't know what she looks like. She might not even be like a 15 or a 16-year-old girl. She could probably be like an adult or something like that, and you'd never know. And her being an adult would make more sense for how she's like undercover and has been a part of the league or All for One or something like that. And also her being invisible allows her to go around and do things that you wouldn't be able to notice or see, sneaking, getting information, doing things like that. So I think it would be perfect if it was her. Considering she hasn't really had any kind of development, like even less so than like characters like Ojiro and Sato and stuff like that, I think it would be just right if it was her. And then your second question, if you had to get Saitama a Christmas gift, what would it be? Definitely like a gift card to a store or something. So like maybe like Walmart or something, because that's all that really interests Saitama is like shopping and bargains, but in this case a gift card is free money, so he would really enjoy something like that probably. Legendarius asks, how do you pick thumbnails for your Q&A videos? It kind of just comes to me. Sometimes like it'll come immediately to me and I'll think like, oh, okay, this would probably be a good thumbnail. And then sometimes I kind of just have to sit there and think about it after the fact, but usually it just happens in my head almost immediately. I don't really have to think about it too much. And then your second question, what is your best case harem and your worst case harem? So the best case would probably be the girls from One Punch Man, considering they're like the most aesthetically appealing, or at least, the top 3 are, and they're all of age. And the worst case, really hard to say. Maybe One Piece. I was never really a fan of the way that Oda drew his female characters. It's not to my personal liking. I'm more of a, Murata type of guy, but I mean, either way, a harem is fantastic. Mr.Awsome asks, what if Gigantomachia took Biceps King? How strong would he be? Could he take on Prime All Might? Dude, I have no idea. Like, there's like no rhyme or reason to the Biceps King. I think it was almost kind of like a gaggy thing thrown in the, the first couple chapters in the first episode, just to like show like, Saitama is that strong and that this world is pretty outrageous. It's like, would it even work on Gigantomachia because he's already kind of been altered by Yujiko and he is like the first Nomu kind of. So if it did affect him and it grew him as tall as Beefcake, like, would it make him stronger than Beefcake, considering that at his base, he's definitely way stronger than human Beefcake, or at least I assume he is. So would that amplify his power to close to God level, maybe? Man, I don't know. But could a being theoretically that strong take on Prime All Might? I think so. I am not saying that one would defeat the other, but I think it would be more competitive than it originally would be, if that makes sense. And then your second question, how would Tank Top Master do against Deep Sea King if they fought in the same scenario where he fought Puri? So we'll have to go to like Tank Top Master taking on Hero Hunter Garou, who is somewhat close to Deep Sea King, kind of around the same level, speed, physicality, stuff like that, although Garou, of course, is way more skilled. Tank Top Master did have some success in the beginning of that fight, and if it wasn't for Garou's hacks, he probably would have maybe even taken him down, maybe. So like if he employed the same strategy against Deep Sea King, smashing the ground, tank top tackle, he would be somewhat successful against Deep Sea King. But if it started raining, which it did, like in this scenario, it definitely would start raining eventually, then he would probably lose at that point. Natedawg asks, do you think Blast was involved in Blue's life? That's a great question, and I'm not sure. I mean, hopefully we will get Blue's backstory or Blast's backstory or whatever relationship they have will be revealed. It seems like maybe Blast wasn't really that involved with Blue. Maybe he didn't even raise him. Maybe like I don't know, whoever he was involved with, whoever the mother of Blue is, maybe they kind of had a falling out possibly. Or maybe Blue wasn't planned. Maybe it was one of those kind of situations. And maybe Blue was always on the sidelines, like resenting his dad for not raising him, or resenting his dad for being as strong as he is and not really using his power effectively. So it's like, does Blue know how strong Blast is? He's got to have a better idea than most people. I mean, like, the core people who know how strong Blast is Tatsumaki and Fubuki. But like, does Blue know as much as them? Super hard to say. I mean, Blue definitely has to know that Blast is somewhat outrageous in his level of power. So I don't think Blue necessarily thinks he can defeat Blast. I just think that he thinks that he can make a better hero society or better hero system or be a better hero in general than Blast is. I don't think that he's thinking that like, oh, I'll defeat him in a fight or something. Nathan W asks, what would happen if the Hero Victims Names Association fought the Blizzard group? So the Hero Victims Name Association, I think their highest ranking member is like B class 100 or something like that, right? The guy with the mask. So based off of just the rankings, they would probably lose to the Blizzard group because they have Eyelashes and Mountain Ape, who are 2 and 3, technically 1 and 2. I mean, if you know, Fubuki going up to the A class. So I assume that they could probably get the job done here. And also, you know, they have more numbers than the Hero Victim Names Association. So I think the Blizzard group will probably take this one. Wario asks, do you think Bakugo will stay close in power to Deku? And considering that he had a recent Zenkai boost, do you think your mind has changed at all on this? I don't know if Bakugo had a Zenkai boost. I don't know if Zenkai boosts are even a dynamic within the world of My Hero. At least it hasn't been made apparent that it is. That was kind of just like one last moment for Bakugo, it seemed like. If you're talking about like the feat of power that he had in chapter 293, I mean, Bakugo is closer to Izuku than most students, I would say. And like, if Izuku isn't going 100% full caling, it seems like Bakugo would probably be closer to winning, or at least it seemed like that. Like when it shows the flashback of them training, Bakugo was pretty much handling Izuku, you know, with the Black Whip stuff and all that. But it goes back to like the 100% full caling or just 100% in general. Obviously, Bakugo is not close to that. I mean, if he rips off one of those, you know, gauntlet blasts, then it kind of is similar to that. But unless Bakugo has some kind of thing that makes him as physically and fast and strong as, you know, 100% full caling or something like that, he's not really gonna be close to Izuku. So like, if Izuku goes to 45%, then it would be like a really good fight if we go back to like the end of season 3 or something like that. And then for your second question, which 5 students from 1A or 1B, excluding the big 3, would you take to create powerful high-end Nomus? So I would take Tokoyami because Dark Shadow is great, and it would be pretty cool to see a high-end Nomu with that type of ability. Tetsu and Kirishima, both of them would be incredible high-end Nomus. Suyu, I think she would also make a great high-end Nomu as well with her quirk set. And then finally, Monoma. Monoma is a high-end Nomu if he was like in a group with these individuals or any other high-end Nomus, would be insane. Like, imagine like a high-end Nomu with Monoma's quirk, and he just started like touching the other high-end Nomus, and like, you know, 3 to like 5 of their different quirks and using them all at once. That would be really crazy. And Chase C asks, what would happen if Bang went against Might Guy? So hard to say right now, but once all of Bang's like manga feats are revealed, I think we'll have a way better answer to this question. But as of right now, it seems like maybe they're somewhat relative, possibly. And I'm talking like Night Guy, you know, like 8th gate open Might Guy. I think he would need to do that to reach like the full potential of Bang, or at least what we've seen, like one-shotting a cadre, you know, holding off Elder Centipede. That's like, I think that's like peak Might Guy, or at least close to it. So if they were to go against each other all out, it would be, I don't know, probably pretty competitive, at least just guessing. I mean, like I said, once we see Bang in the manga, we'll have a much better answers to this. Snowpeas asks, how tough of a fight would the S-Class have against Tochiro from Mob Psycho, not counting Blast? So he would be very tough for, you know, individually the S-Class to go against. Like, you know, he's definitely Dragon minimum. So like Tatsumaki probably wouldn't have too much difficulty taking him on, in my opinion. Flashy Flash, depending on how fast Toichiro truly is, would probably present him with a tough fight as well. Darkshine, you know, all of the top S-Class heroes would probably have somewhat of a difficult time, might even lose to him, but I think like Tatsumaki would, you know, or maybe even the full potential of Metal Knight could probably take him down. Wolffire54 asks, when Blast is revealed, do you think we'll get to see his eyes, or will they always be covered up by the shadows? I think we'll definitely see Blast's full face. I think the shadowy stuff is just for now. It's just kind of just keeping him mildly ambiguous until his, you know, full reveal, which I think will definitely happen. So it won't be like All Might as to where his eyes stay blackened to indicate that he is, you know, is post getting injured by All For One. I'm thinking that we will absolutely see Blast's full face, which is just the bearded worker. And then for your second question, do you think Murata's Blast will have a different color scheme than One's Blast, or do you think they will still have the same purple-black suit? So there's no official color scheme on Blast yet. The one that you're thinking of, I think, was made up by Tekking 101 with the commission that he had when he made his original Blast video. That's not like official or anywhere close to canon. So right now, Blast's color scheme is up in the air. It could be anything. Zapphod B asks, who wins between Metal Bat and Suiryu with and without their Neo Hero gear? I think Suiryu probably takes this, just the way that Garou did as well. Until we get more feats on Metal Bat, or he just proves that he's more effective against individuals like this, I think that he's, you know, bound to lose this matchup. And Suiryu is nearly just as effective as Hero Hunter Garou, as we saw him, you know, go against Job Hunter Garou. So I think Suiryu will probably take Metal Bat. And then for your second question, do I have any tattoos? Not yet. But I do plan on getting quite a bit of tattoos eventually when I'm fully ready. Like, I'd like to get like my whole left arm done, and then most of my chest. But that's pretty much as far as I'd go. I think tattoos are awesome, especially like if you get one that you truly want. I think it's something that you need to think about. I had a whole bunch of friends just rush into getting tattoos, and a lot of them like regret the ones that they got now because, you know, they didn't think about it. So that's why I'm kind of taking my time, and when I know I'm truly ready to get it, then I'll get them. So I would give the same advice to you. If you do want a tattoo, I would say wait. Wait as long as you can. If you can wait a couple months, or if you can even wait a year, come back to what you thought you wanted to get. And if you still want it, you know, after like 3 or 4 months or a year or whatever, then I think it's probably a good idea to get it. That's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Once again, I want to thank all 117 of my amazing patrons. And if you would like to be in next week's Q&A, simply check out the Patreon. The $5 tier will give you access to this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.